talk about selecting an advisor, working with your advisor, some expectation, advisor roles, and student leaders, the roles of the student leader, right? Of course, if you have any questions, just ask me. My name is Gina. I'm the graduate assistant for student organizations. So selecting an advisor, some suggestions for me to you. Whenever you're already in an established organization, right? Yeah, so if you're wanting to start another organization or anything, these are some of the things that we suggest. Are you the president? You're the treasurer?
Sponsorship chair. We actually have the same advisor for both organizations I'm in.
Okay, cool, very nice. So I mean, this doesn't necessarily pertain to you, but if you know of someone that's interested in wanting to start an organization, these are just kind of some procedures and steps that I would suggest for them to take. So I would suggest that they sit down and talk to the organization about the expectations of the advisor. So if it's a group of students wanting to start an organization, it's best if they sit down and kind of let the advisor know, like, these are the expectations, these are the time requirements, these are some of the things that consist with being an advisor for our organization. Just because a lot of times advisors are also new and they don't know what to expect or what they're getting themselves into. So it's just important for them to kind of have that conversation. Before making a selection, make sure that they consider finding someone who will have time to devote to the organization, find someone who will take the role willingly and seriously. So again, that goes along with the expectations, making sure that they know exactly what they're getting into and have all of those things into play whenever they're making their decision. When approaching your potential advisor for the first time, make certain that he or she has a clear understanding of your organization's purpose. So that's very important because a lot of times there might be an advisor that doesn't even know what the organization does, right? So stating those purposes is very important, the mission, and just clarifying that with your advisor is super important. Even if you already have an existing advisor, it's good to kind of have those conversations to make sure that everybody's on the same page. And he or she has a clear understanding required of him or her and their role, duties and time commitment as an advisor. That goes along with the expectations that we spoke about earlier. Allow the person a reasonable length of time to consider the decision. So whenever you are wanting to consider maybe having a secondary advisor, give them enough time to think about it. They might be doing research or they might be involved in other things on campus, so they want to make sure that they have enough time, right? So it's good to just let them, after you have that one-on-one conversation about expectations, kind of give them their space so that they can think and figure out whether it is something that they want to get into or not. Once a faculty or staff member has agreed to be your advisor, he or she must complete advisor risk management training in order for your organization to be registered. So I'm sure you already know this, but it is a requirement just because we want to make sure that all of the organizations are adhering by UNT's policies and that they're being safe within their organization and they're taking precautions that they're required to take, right? So that's just a requirement that we have for all advisors. Student Activities has a list of potential advisors. So if you are wanting to have another advisor or you're considering about changing yours or from one semester to the next, the advisor is just not able to be your advisor anymore, we do provide a list. It's kind of running a bit short right now, but we will try to find someone for you and your organization. So if you ever have questions or anything, like contact you at Student Activities, and we will do our best to find someone for you. Do you have any questions or anything? Not yet? Okay. Cool. In what ways do you utilize your advisor? Yeah.
And then, but we didn't have the tax information that we needed to do a fundraiser, so then he suggested something else. So basically asking for advice, I guess.
Yeah.
And then I actually haven't seen him since, so basically my other organization, we're trying to get a bank account.
Okay.
So I'm asking the group president and the advisor to try to work together and fill out the information so we can send it to the student activities and get
that form, checking the verification form. Cool. So you usually use it for like paperwork and like advice and things like that? Yeah, official things. Yeah, that's basically what they do, right? Very nice. So a lot of times they're not as involved as we would like them to be, or they are like super involved. They're so involved that they want to like take over the organization. So it really depends on what your relationship is. So at the beginning of the semester, my suggestion is for the organization's executive officers to meet with the advisor to determine their roles and expectations of each other. That goes along with all of those expectations. That just kind of starts everyone on the same platter, gets everyone on the same foot for the semester that's to come, right? And it kind of is a new start, right? If you don't know, if your advisor is new, or if you're new to your position, you don't know how your advisor works, you were just a member the previous year, and now you're an officer, it's good to kind of have that conversation and see, okay, what is our advisor's role? What are their expectations of us? What are our expectations of them? It's good to have that conversation. Learn from your advisor. So you're on the right track. You ask your advisor for advice. They know a lot of different things that students don't know. They're a very good resource, and so it's good to kind of go up to them and ask them questions if you want variety in your organizational meetings, just different things that you're looking for. You can always reach out to your advisor, and they're more than willing to help. So utilizing them as a resource is super important. The most important reason for having an advisor is to enhance learning opportunities associated with student involvement. So again, they are a great resource, and they will provide information that you didn't even know you needed. Any consultation with your advisor can be useful, whether it's in regards to organizational matters or otherwise. Yeah, so they're an advisor not only for your organization, but if you're struggling through your classes and you need somebody to talk to, that's what your advisor is there for. They are not only your resource, but they're kind of like a mentor, and they want you to talk to them about other things besides the organization. Of course, you can disclose as much as you would like, but they're there for that reason. Include your advisor in the group. Relationships with your advisor can remain positive by introducing him or her to the group and providing the advisor time to address the organization. So what that means is it's important to include them. So a lot of times people are just like, oh, my advisor's sitting in the back seat while we have meetings and things like that. Like, that's cool. It depends on how involved your advisor wants to be. So if they want to just sit in the back, like, cool, that's nice. If they want to just talk to the executive officers during your officer meetings, that's nice too. But just make sure that you establish that whenever you have those expectation meetings, make sure you all talk about that. How involved are you wanting to be in our organization? How involved do we want you to be in our organization, right? That way there can be a clear understanding and they're not feeling excluded from the organization, like they probably don't need me, right? So asking them for opinion and like just going up to them is super important. It is the responsibility of the organization to communicate its needs to the advisor. Again, I keep stressing communication because it's so important. A lot of times people forget that their advisor is someone that's super important to the organization. If there's no advisor, like you can't register, you can't submit your portal because then you need an approval. Like there's so many things that your advisor is used for. And so once you have that relationship, it really facilitates everything else that goes along with your organization. Advisors should be willing to get involved with the organization, but don't make him or her guess what you need. So that's why it's important to have those conversations, because they can't just think, oh, they need help figuring out what goals they're gonna set for the spring semester. You have to kind of verbalize those things so that they are aware. We're just human, and we are not able to think and imagine other people's thoughts. So it's important to have those conversations. Maintain regular contact with your advisor. Again, communication is super important, and just kind of letting them know what's going on with the org, if there's any changes that are happening, if you're wanting, if there's an officer that's, kind of not adhering by its role, or they're just not following the rules that's according to your constitution. Like, speak with your advisor and let them know, like, hey, we've decided that we do not want this officer, or there's some changes that we want to make. Just talk to them. That's what they're there for. Allow the advisor to say no when needed. So a lot of times we think, oh, they're our advisor, they're going to say yes, yes, yes. But no, there's some things that are just not going to happen, or they just don't seem feasible, right? Or they're breaking, your organization's wanting to do something that's breaking some policies that you may not even know about. So it's okay for them to say no. Like, we can't be spoiled. We can't just think yes all the time. There's going to be times where they say no. We can't even get mad because we don't know why. Well, they have legit reasons as to why they're saying no, right? Make sure you give your advisor copies of all important documents to keep on file, so we keep on file. So that's important just because as you transition into other parts of your life, your advisor is the one that's going to be stable with your organization. hopefully, right? And so it's important for them to have all of the documentation that you've had over the year, just so that they can transfer that information on to the next set of officers. All of that documentation is super important. Use your advisor as a resource if things in your organization seem to get stuck. So again, if you're stuck or something, if you have some kind of conflict, if you don't know what your next move should be, definitely speak to your advisor. Again, they're a great resource for you. Do you have any questions or anything?
I was just wondering, is an advisor just like a faculty member, staff, or maybe like a professor? Can it also be like graduate students, or is it just for like?
Yeah, so there are certain requirements for an advisor. They must be 22 years old. They must be full-time faculty or staff. So graduate students, not so much. Yeah, because they have to be full-time. And so that's the only thing that kind of hinders them from being an advisor. Yeah. Cool. What are some expectations you have for your advisor?
So he doesn't really keep regular contact with us, just with our president, and that's concerning to me because he hasn't really shown up to our meetings or offered like any direct advice to our group, except through our president, who channels what he says to us. So she's graduating next year, so whoever's president or like in charge can really decide how he's going to communicate like with us as our group, either through like a main channel or through like your meetings and stuff. So I wasn't really sure.
Yeah. So okay, so you know how at the beginning I was mentioning those expectation meetings. That's when you can say those kinds of things. And I know a lot of times we're like, oh, I know they're like older than me, and I don't want to disrespect them or anything. But these are things that these are conversations that need to be had. Otherwise, you'll be feeling like, oh, they're not really inclusive. Like I don't really know who my advisor is. Like I don't know anything about them. So having that conversation at the beginning of the semester, especially if you said they're graduating next year, like is it May?
Yeah, graduating in May.
Yeah, maybe in the spring start it all over. Just kind of mention it to your president and just say, hey, I kind of think that we need to have like an expectations meeting with our advisor just so that we can talk about them being more included in our programming or attending meetings and just kind of talking to us, right? Just because that they play an important role and you want to know who they are and what they have to say, right? So I would say setting that meeting is super important. Okay, so some of the things that your advisor can provide for your organization. They can play devil's advocate when needed. So if you're wanting to have a program and you're going through all of the logistics and you have this master plan, your advisor may think about things that you didn't even think about, right? So that's one role they can definitely play, and that's why they're so important, because it helps us think about things that we haven't imagined. They can help with problem solving as an impartial third party who assists you to work through problems and conflict. So again, if you're having any type of conflict, they can be that person that kind of is level-headed. They know right from wrong. Not to say that students don't, but a lot of times we're so caught up in our emotions and the way that we're feeling and the way that we see things that we don't see past that. So having that third party, your advisor, is super important so they can kind of level everything out and it doesn't escalate. They can act as a sounding board. So again, if you have any ideas for your org, you're wanting to try something new, you're wanting to implement a new program or anything like that, your advisor can be a sounding board, kind of like walk you through your thoughts, kind of help you plan that event, plan whatever initiative that you're wanting to make. So it's important to utilize them. Provide advice on activities that might be of interest to students or enhance organizational development. So does your advisor, well, I know you mentioned they're not really involved, but do they ever tell you about things that are going on around campus or anything? Not really? Okay. So I mean, maybe that's another expectation. You want them to kind of tell you some things that are going on around campus that you might not even know about. They get hundreds of emails a day. And in those emails, there's different events like develop your leadership, right? And so as an officer, you want to have that information just so that you can go and do those things. There's conferences, there's workshops, there's trainings, there's all kinds of things. And Granted, you can go and look those things up yourself, but there's information that they get that we are not accessible to, like students are not accessible to. So trying to get them to do those kind of things for you is super important because you can have access to so many other things, right? So maybe talking to them about that whenever you have that expectations meeting could be a thing. Assist in evaluating the organization. Use your advisor as a resource to help determine what should be evaluating and when. So this is important because a lot of times organizations are so used to the routine and just kind of doing the same thing every year. Okay, we transitioning this month, and this day we do this, and this day we do that. That they forget that, like, sometimes you need to step back and kind of analyze your organization. Are you making any progress? Are your numbers increasing? Are students actually attracted to your organization? Kind of thinking about things like that, right? Because that's the only way you'll grow. If you try to find different marketing ways, marketing styles, and kind of find variety in your organization. So speaking with your advisor about those things can be super beneficial in continuing your organization and like growing it and just making it better, right? So evaluating the organization is super important. Some other things. It can help the organization set future schedules. So again, that kind of goes with the organizational evaluation of the organization. If you're wanting to create something new, that's what they're there for. Provide knowledge and advice about university policies. So this goes mostly with programming and creating new programs and stuff like that. Your advisor can serve as a great resource to tell you, okay, well, you can't have this item here at this event because of this, because of this policy, or you can't do this, this, and that because of this policy, or did you think about this because of this policy? So it's good to have them in meetings whenever you're planning your programs or anything like that, just to have that extra knowledge and that expert knowledge in your meetings and in your event planning. Be informed of things. Did I say that before? Yes. Be informed of things happening on campus that may be of particular interest to your organization. Special programs, speakers, conferences. So this goes back to what I was saying about letting you know about events that are going on around campus. It's super important. They know a lot of things that we don't, and so if they can provide that for you, if you voice that to them, I'm pretty sure that they'll be more than glad to kind of let you know, because this is their organization as well, that they want you all to grow and kind of develop in your student development. So it's good to kind of ask for them to do those kinds of things, right? They can inform the organization about financial opportunities, grants, scholarships, again, all of these opportunities that they can provide for you. It's kind of good to kind of let them know, like, hey, do you know about any grants or scholarships that pertain to our organization? This is something that I'm interested in. I just want to learn more. And kind of voicing that, they can provide things that we don't think about. Work cooperatively with the organization, answering questions objectively. So again, if you have any type of questions that are pertaining to the organization, whether that's policies or just anything, they are the person to go to. And I'm pretty sure you know that, as they are your advisor, right? They provide a network of opportunities for members from your organization to interact with people in the field, area of interest, which helps the members develop new contacts. So this kind of goes back along with them providing resources and just kind of connecting you with other people. So what is the name of your board?
The first one is Texas, and the other one is Asian Pacific American Partner Committee.
Okay, cool. The first one, Doves, what is that? What do they?
It's a advocacy group for sexual assault and domestic violence victims.
Okay, yeah. So I'm not really sure what kind of grants or scholarships are offered, but either way, they might know. I'm not sure, but they might know things that, that we don't know about. They're an advisor for a reason, right? So they might be a great resource to providing that bridge for you. I mean, if you're wanting to like volunteer or something at different events, do y'all do any volunteering or anything like that?
It's different on campus, so like local.
Yeah. Okay. Well, there might be like, I can't think of anything right now. Maybe shelters or even women's centers.
We did make a difference too.
Oh, okay.
Like just small events.
Yeah.
We really got into
Like
we want to get any continual community service like at a specific organization or location.
Yeah.
So.
Okay. Well, establishing something for like each year is very important. That way, your people like other students that want to be part of your organization can say, oh, I know they do this every year, so I want to be a part of that, right? So maybe thinking about that, talk to your advisor, like let them know like, hey, we want to have a program that we established that we want to have every semester or every year so that they can look and research things for you as well. Okay, so we've divided the advisor's responsibilities into 3 different areas. Responsibility to the organization, student leaders, and to the university. One of the responsibilities is to be familiar with the organization's constitution. This is like the first thing, this is like super like, you already should know this, right? Because if you're part of an organization, you should know what you're a part of, right? And kind of what it is that you're doing, what is the purpose of this work. So it is very important that they know the Constitution. If there's any changes, just let them know or run it past them so that they're aware that the organization is changing. Help the organization set goals that are realistic. This is super important as well because they might be able to push you and kind of challenge the organization to think broader than what they think they're capable of. So reaching out to your advisor for that reason is super important. Review the finances of the organization to ensure that officers are being fiscally responsible. So this is important because a lot of times, let's say, does your org have a bank account?
Not yet. I've suggested to my organization a bank off in this work, so I need to get those officers to agree on a date and time so we can go to the bank, establish a bank account, and
Okay. Oh, you did mention that earlier. Okay, yeah, so whenever organizations do have a bank account, they kind of have the card and they're just swiping and buying things and they forget to keep record of those things. And then you look back a year later and you're like, where did all the money go, right? So kind of speaking with your advisor about all of the expenses that are going on, keeping a spreadsheet, different methods that you can utilize for you to keep track of all of your finances, and then kind of running it by your advisor. Or before you make any purchases, just letting them know, hey, these are some of the things we're planning on doing. How do you feel about this? They work to ensure university policies and procedures are explained and adhered by the organization. This goes back to my other point about whenever you're creating your programs and whenever you're wanting to do an event. It's very important that they are there to kind of let you know of the policies and procedures that you should be taking. Attend org meetings and or officer meetings as needed. So this goes back to those expectations. Kind of asking them, how involved are you wanting to be with our org? Do you want to be at every meeting? Do you just want to be at our officer meeting? How often? Do you just want to come once a month? Like, what is your level of involvement that you're wanting? And then you can also say, what is the level that you want from them, right? Just so that you are all on the same page. Approval. So of course you probably already know this, but it's very important that they are the ones that are approving any updates, any forms that you're submitting, just anything, just let them know. Like as soon as you submit a form, let them know like, hey, you'll be needing to approve this form so that we can process it. So that Student Activities can process it or whatever department you're working with. So kind of reminding them is also very important. So the roles of the student leaders. Be available to members of the club. So this is super important because you want them to be there and you kind of want them, you chose them for a reason, right? And you want to hear what are their thoughts. You want to know the information that they can provide for you. So it is their responsibility to be available to you. So again, with that, they can't guess how you're feeling, what it is that you need. Letting them know, hey, we want you to be at every meeting. Hey, we're struggling with this, that, and the other. Voicing those things is super important so that they know what it is that they need to provide for you. They serve as a resource for members about history of the organization and important university policies. So again, they know all of the policies, they should know all the policies, and with that documentation, they're able to provide any history, any other things. So if you wanted to see how was the organization ran before, you can always go to them and kind of see what what information they have that you didn't know before. Meet with the org officers periodically to gain an understanding of the club's progress towards its goals. So again, you have to set goals in order for them to kind of check the progress, right? So if you set goals with your advisor, then they can kind of hold you accountable. They can hold the organization accountable to kind of, figure out what is their organization needs help with. This is a great way to incorporate your advisor. Just kind of having them help you look into the future and work on your vision and kind of the mission of the organization. They have more experience than students do, and so they can be a great resource for kind of planning the success of the organization. Keep students focused on the mission of the organization. So again, this is very important because it kind of brings you back to the center. If your organization is wanting to implement something that doesn't necessarily align with your mission, your advisor can call you out on it, right? That's why it's so important that they know the Constitution and that they know what all your organization is doing and what it plans to do. Encourage members to play an active role in the governance of the organization and to be a part of the planning process for any events or programming. So a lot of times, do you know any officers that kind of just have the title but don't really do anything with their position?
Well, I understand that some people in our group are really busy, so we help each other out.
Okay.
Sometimes, so if somebody can't make flyers, then somebody else would jump in and help make it for them, and then they'll pick up the next time.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, that works because it's kind of collaborative. But there's times where some officers are just like, I'm not going to be included in this. I'm not going to the meeting. Don't really care about that event, And so it is the advisor's role to kind of encourage you all to keep up to your role and adhere by the things that are in the Constitution so that your organization can keep going. Otherwise, it's just going to fall apart. So some of the advisors' roles to the university, they're required to stay informed. So we also have workshops for advisors, so they kind of can know what is going on with student organizations, what updates there are, just any new information, they can have that available to them. We have workshops, they can ask questions. There's different things that we have for them so that they can stay informed. Being present. So you mentioned your advisor was a little distant, so kind of letting them know like, hey, we need you, letting them feel like these are some things that we want from you so they can feel included and be there. Authorize financial transactions. So again, running all transactions and any monetary concerns with your advisor is super important because again, they're the one that are going to be there for the following year. And so if they're not aware of what is going on with your account or if you're in the red, and then that's kind of something you need to look into, right? Whenever you do get your bank account, I suggest putting your advisor on there just because they are that stable entity that's going to be continuing with your organization. Otherwise, officers come and go, and we only process forms that have been submitted by people that are already on the account. So, for example, you're opening the account, so you put yourself on there, but you graduate, who's going to submit that form, right? So it's important to have your advisor on there. Hold the organizations and members accountable. So this is important because although they are the behind-the-scenes person and they are also part of the organization, it's important for the members and the officers to kind of continue the organization. You all do all the planning. You all kind of put everything together. You are the face of the organization. So that advisor is responsible for kind of holding you accountable for your responsibilities and everything that you're required to do. Okay, what are some expectations your advisors has for you? It's okay if you...
I really don't.
No?
I think since I'm president, she's the president of both organizations.
Oh, okay.
She, I think, has a personal connection to him. She knows him really well through the Multicultural Center where he is on campus. And so since the rest of the group probably has never met him,
Yeah.
I don't know if any of the officers would be like, hey, we'd like to actually meet our advisor. Can you ask him, say, make an appointment, or try to ask him to attend one of our meetings or something like that? I'm not sure if that's something that she would be able to do with us.
Yeah. Okay, so do you all have like officer meetings?
No. Well, kind of, not really.
Yeah.
So after our meetings, we kind of meet together. I guess the officers that do attend, but our attendance for officer meetings are really low since everybody has to scatter.
Yeah.
And, I actually have class right after the meeting, so if I can afford to, I try to stay a couple minutes. But for the past couple meetings, I've just been like, guys, I've got to go.
I have to go.
I have to quit. I
Yeah.
have to take a quiz within 30 minutes and I need all the time I can get, so.
Yeah. Okay, so it can definitely get rough. So that goes back to that kind of like structure, you know, having those officer meetings is a great opportunity for officers to state their opinion and kind of state where their organization is. So how would you rate your organization from a 1 to a 5?
Like overall, I guess?
Yeah.
1 to a 5?
Yeah.
1 being
The lowest.
low. 3?
A 3? Okay. Are you regarding like involvement, or are you just considering like structure? Okay, yeah. So I would consider maybe stabilizing the time for officer meetings. Do you have meetings every week, or do you have
Every week, general meetings every week, and then officer meetings, or at least officers who attend after the general meeting.
Okay, so maybe having them, I mean, I know you're the treasurer, and like, I don't know if you, how many things you can call out, but maybe having the officer meeting on the off weeks when you don't have the general meetings. That way that time is blocked off and you know, like every Wednesday at 5 you have this meeting for this organization, right? That kind of just sets structure and it allows officers the opportunity to voice their opinion about the work.
The reason why we have general meetings every week is, as our president states, just to keep our members engaged.
Yeah.
So I guess she fears that, if we have it every other week, then people are going to try to taper off later and at the end of the year. So having it every week is, I guess, somewhat regular.
Yeah, to retain the members.
Yeah.
Okay, interesting. Do you all have like material to like have meetings every week?
Yeah. Sometimes we have to repeat a couple stuff, but
Okay.
yeah.
Okay, very nice. All right, well, maybe try voting in like officer meetings that are stable so that you can voice opinions, right? That's the only way the organization will grow, honestly. Okay, so I have some responsibilities as the student leaders. Make final decisions. So it's not okay for you to rely just on your advisor to make all of the decisions. It is your organization, so you are required to make those decisions. So keep that in mind. Understand your advisor's roles and advising style. So like I mentioned, there are some advisors that want to be super involved in the organizations, while others are like, I'm not really wanting to be involved, just give me what I need to sign, give me what I need to approve, and then move on. But if that's not what works for you, you need to let them know so that they can kind of accommodate to whatever your needs are. Just because they sometimes don't know and they can't guess. Develop a strong relationship with your advisor. So it is very important that you develop that relationship so that you can communicate with them and you can voice any concerns that you have, or if you need to improve, just kind of talking to them is super important so they can help you structure and get everything on the right track for your organization. Include the advisor in your decision-making process. Again, they can play devil's advocate. They can help you think about things that you haven't even thought about. Ask your advisor for help when major conflict arises. So if there is conflict, it's super important that they step in as that third party, just so that they can leverage everything out and come with a clear mind. Inform your advisor about any changes with your organization. So if you are wanting to meet every week, let your advisor know so that they can kind of adjust to your schedule if they're wanting to be there every week, or if they don't think that that's a good idea, they can voice that as well there. So just keeping them informed about any changes that you're wanting to make. Schedule periodic meetings with your advisor. This is again to foster that relationship that you have with them, and so that they can know what is going on and they can stay kind of consistent with your organization. Some other responsibilities: be prepared for organization's meetings. So as a student leader, that's what your requirements are. Otherwise, the organization will not run. Being aware of and respecting registration deadlines. So as an org leader, whenever you're, there's organizations that fall apart because they forget to register, or they don't go to orientation. So it is the student leader's responsibility to show up, follow, make sure that they're adhering by all of their student activities rules, and knows when their registration is coming up so that they can register the org. Keeping track of organization's requirements and progress. So this goes back to the organization evaluation. Keeping track of the organization, what events or things is it that you all need to revisit or look at. The Constitution, a lot of times students just keep the same constitutions that have been happening since like 2009, and it's like things change, right? So if you're re-looking at those things, it keeps the organization fresh, and it can even recruit different members. Contacting your advisor as soon as you have any difficulties. That's important because they are that level-headed person in the organization, and they also provide different policies and procedures that you haven't even thought about. Being forthcoming and honest with your advisor. So this is also important because that relationship is not going to work unless you're being honest and letting them know if you're hiding things about your finances and stuff like that, that can very much hinder their relationship. So just kind of being aware of how you communicate with your advisor, what it is that you communicate with them is important. Okay, so I have this little assessment. Would you like to go through it, or it just kind of talks about, again, that evaluating the organization. It's very important just so that you can know where your organization stands and what is the future of it, or what are some things that need to be changed. It's important to do these things, whether you're doing it at the beginning of the semester, the end of the semester. It's something that should be done. And then it just kind of asks which questions were easy and stuff like that. So these are just some common factors amongst successful organizations. Administrative duties, so being on time, correct forms, exceeding performance standards. You probably wouldn't know this unless you have an evaluation of your organization. So those are things that are very important. Advisors. Advisors and officers work as a team. Advisors are aware of the organization's activities. Again, that relationship is super important. Otherwise, there's not going to be any structure, and the incoming officers won't really know how to run the organization. Programming. A variety of educational programs are provided to develop members. So that's super important because if students are attending your meetings and they don't know why they're attending your meetings and they're just going through the same things every day, it kind of gets boring and it kind of gets old, right? So you want to make sure that you're constantly being innovative with your programming. Committees, team approach to organizational responsibilities. So this is a great way to incorporate members and kind of getting them involved. Is creating committees. Activities that focus on the support of the mission and development of the team. That's super important because it kind of gets everyone on the same page, right? So I would go through the Hamlet, but you already can read. But yes, activities, leaders, networking, community, education, recruitment, and marketing. All of these things are super important whenever you're wanting to rethink your organization, kind of where your organization is going, right? Do you have any questions in regards to these? No? Okay, cool. So, some student leader don'ts. Don't expect them to assume ultimate responsibility for your organization's decisions, problems, or failures. So again, although your advisor is very much part of your org, they're not required to just handle the org. Like, that is not their responsibility. It is yours as a student leader. Don't expect for your advisor to run your organization meetings. Like, that's not what they're there for. They're there to advise, give you advice, support, all of those other things, but they're not allowed to run your organization. Don't expect them to assume the role of an absolute decision maker. So again, it is your role to make those final decisions. They are just an advisor. Don't expect your advisor to have all of the answers. Sometimes they just don't know, and that's okay. As a student leader, you should be able to look up things and research and kind of find out, and then maybe bring it back the information to them and let them know, hey, I found the correct answer to my question. This is something I know. Don't sign, approve forms or documents on behalf of your advisor. Of course, this is very much self-explanatory. You don't want to plagiarize any of the paperwork that needs to be signed by your advisor, just because you can get in huge trouble, right? And that's just not the right thing to do. Okay, cool. So that's really all I have. Some additional resources. So we do have more sold workshops. We have one on November 2nd and November 16th. The November 2nd I will be at, and it's in regards to your Constitution. So if you're wanting to, review your Constitution, kind of give it a uplift. It's a great soul workshop to attend. Then November 16th, we're going to be talking about resumes and how to highlight your environment and your involvement in your resume. So that's something that you can look forward to. Mean Green Spring Fling, so we've already started planning for it. So just make sure you're staying alert on your email so that you can know when signups are coming up. The Eagle Awards, that also comes up in the spring, so just make sure you're on the lookout for that. The Center for Leadership and Service, they're having a leadership lunch on November 15th. So if you're wanting to attend, please RSVP. Otherwise, you won't get any food. So it's important to follow the link on Orgsing so that you can RSVP. And of course, leadership. Have you been to leadership?
I've heard of it. Like transportation and food is provided, right?
Yes, and lodging, yes. So it's like a 7-week program, and it's super intensive, but it's so awesome. You really grow and you get a chance to kind of step out of your comfort zone or stretch your comfort zone, right? So, okay, cool. So if you have any other questions that I haven't answered or anything like that, feel free to go to the Student Org resources page, and there's multiple information that you can find on there. Let's see. Yeah, that's all I have for you. Do you have any other questions? Not really? Okay, cool. So if you do think of any questions or anything, just make sure you contact us, and I will do my best to answer. Thank you so much for staying and coming. No problem. Have a good day.